Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Cuz You Don't Know Football. And as you see, guys, we got another episode coming to you. Guys, we're in the Fatal Flaw series, okay? The new season's on its way. We're in the preseason, and we got my boy, my bro coming through. You know what I'm saying? We about to do this. We got listen, I'm on vacation too. That's why I look like this, you see. Now just enjoying this summer weather and everything. But listen, man, we about to get back into this football season, man. The preseason's here. You know what I'm saying? And so right before the season, what I always like to do is give the Fatal Flaw series, where I tell everybody, or where we gonna tell everybody, why every single team is not gonna win the Super Bowl. What's going to unravel everything that they got going on. Even the team that's going to win the Super Bowl, we still gonna tell them why they're not gonna win the Super Bowl, okay? Okay, so today, so of course you're gonna be on for both episodes, which we're real happy about. So you're gonna be here for both episodes. So let's start with the AFC on this one. You good? You can hear me and everything?
Yep.
Okay.
You hear
So we're
me?
gonna start with the AFC. So I was wondering how I wanted to do it. I kind of just want to build up from the bottom of what we kind of think is going to be the bad teams so that we can get to more exciting stuff to talk about. Okay.
All right.
So no shade on any of the teams we start with. Just understand that's kind of how I feel. Okay. It is what it is. Um, so with that said, I think it's pretty safe to start with the Tennessee Titans. So the Tennessee Titans, why? What's the fatal flaws of the Tennessee Titans?
Yeah, I mean, I think, they have a rookie quarterback coming in, Cam Ward. We don't know anything about him. Their receiving core really isn't top tier. The one guy who was supposed to be a first round pick he was a first round pick from a couple of years ago. I think he's out for the year, out for a long time. Traylon Burks, I think his name is. So I would say the fatal flaw is their
Burks is
passing
gone. They
game.
released him.
Oh, he's released. Yeah, there we go. So he's not even on the team anymore. So I think their passing game is going to be their fatal flaw.
So I mean, they have Kyle Ridley, Calvin Ridley, and they also
Calvin.
have
Yep.
Tyler Lockett. They actually picked up. It's not necessarily their offense. I just think they just have a lot of holes. It's not. It's hard for me to pick one thing with them. Their defense is pretty good. I think it's a slightly above average, but there's nothing special on the defense. Even L'Jarius Sneed, who was supposed to be special, isn't really special for them. So there's nothing really special on this roster for me to say that they're going to do something incredible. However, I do think that they'll be a tough out for a lot of teams. I think they'll be like a strong 4-win team. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't know. A strong like these four. Listen, these four is gonna be good, and there's gonna be like
Mm.
three or four that's gonna like swing against them, but they're gonna be a strong 4-win team. That's how I feel.
Yeah. They're not very good. It's hard to pick just one. I just think Tyler Lockett is a small and old receiver. I don't think they have the receiving core to do much. But you never know. They could be strong. A strong four wins.
Okay. All right. So let's go with another team that I think probably will be towards the bottom of the AFC, the Cleveland Browns. What is the fatal flaw of the Cleveland Browns?
Quarterback, plain and simple. Joe Flacco is the starter. If things turn out well, Shador Sanders will be the backup. And he's sort of the quarterback to the future, or maybe the bridge to the future, or something like that. But if I just narrow it down to one area, it would be the quarterback position because that's just it's probably the weakest quarterback room in the NFL.
So you probably missed the you probably missed the post that I just put up there, but like there's a picture and it was like all the quarterbacks that's about to get traded from the Browns, and one of them was Deshaun Watson. I was like, y'all totally forgot Deshaun Watson was even on the Cleveland Browns roster still.
Yeah,
I
I mean he's torn his Achilles like twice in the same year. Like,
I
he
forgot.
may not
Like, what I'm
go.
saying is like Deshaun Watson. Like I forgot he was even there. But either way, um, I think you're actually pretty wrong about the starter of the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. I think it should be Shador. And I'm not to even go too crazy on what he did or overanalyze it. He actually had a spark. He actually provided a spark to them, period. When I was looking at the Cleveland Browns this whole season, I'm like, there's nothing that's going to create a spark for them from that quarterback position. The fact that it happened at all, I think they need to just go ahead, stop playing. They're not going to be very good either way. They need to just go ahead and play the young man and let him just figure this out because I think he might actually be better than if he had been drafted in the first round. I think he still might be better than they thought he was going to be. So whatever they're going to get from him, I think is going to be a positive. I think they botched this whole experiment and they need to address it and admit we should have drafted him earlier and just let him go. So,
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't see. I mean, I think he fell in the draft for good reasons, but also I agree that he provided a spark in that preseason game. I just don't think they're going to start him game one. Like he might get starts later on in the season, but from the beginning, they're going to start Joe Flacco because he's the most veteran and consistent quarterback they have.
okay. But like there's things about the Cleveland Browns that I actually do like. I like their depth at running back. I think they have a lot of depth at the running back position. I like Jerry Judy, and actually I actually think that getting first of all change your face and getting Deontay Johnson. I actually think if he works on his attitude, I think this that actually could be a steal going being across from him. I actually am a big fan of David Njoku. Um, Now, when it comes to what their fatal flaw actually is, I just think it's the culture. I just feel like there's like a gray cloud over their roster that's just going to rain on their parade no matter what. The culture has to change. Um, and that's what I'm saying. You got to admit where you're wrong for there to be a strong change. Like, stop acting as if you didn't make the mistakes that you made so that you could correct it. But you can't just keep walking and be like, I didn't do that and I didn't make that mistake and be like, all right, well now we're going to change to be great. Nah, the culture.
I can see that. I just don't think starting Shador Sanders week one is the change in culture that they need. I'm not sure that he's ready for that. I think he has a bright future. I just don't think he's there now.
Okay. All right, cool. So let's go. And if you got a team that you think you want to go to next, by all means, speak up on that.
No, I'll let you lead. Go ahead.
Okay. Next, I'm gonna go the Las Vegas Raiders. What is the Raiders' fatal flaw?
Probably their secondary, defensive secondary. Like I can't. They traded probably their best cornerback to the Eagles recently. I think his name is Ja'Cory Bennett,
Mm-hmm.
who was like a speedster guy, kind of stiff in his hips, but fast, and was probably their best corner. And they traded him. They needed the depth. They needed more depth at defensive tackle when Christian Wilkinson got released. But that just means that their defensive secondary is just that much worse. So I'm going with the secondary.
Okay. So that's why I always wanted to start with the worst teams at the bottom because it's very clear like they're not going to the Super Bowl.
It's
But
true.
um it's not so my answer this year is going to be the same answer that I have next year for their fatal flaws, which is basically they didn't acknowledge that they needed to restart. Like they felt like they paid things or they paid their quarterback, they paid Geno Smith. They could have traded Max Crosby and gotten a lot of picks. Their roster is more bare, and they could have filled it out better and put themselves in a better situation. Once again, when these GMs don't acknowledge, all right, we're starting over or we did something bad. When you don't acknowledge that those kind of things, you make false steps. And I feel like they made a false step. Um, that I think is going to be hard for them to pick now. They're not going to be bad enough draft wise to get all in all, give me what they would need next year to compete. And I think they're too bad, you know what I mean, to really make any noise. So they'll be like a strong 6-win team, a strong 6-win team.
You know, I think I disagree. I think they are. I agree that there are some serious holes, especially in the secondary, like I said, on the
Mhm.
roster. I think They did enough to reset though. They got a new coach. I think their GM is pretty new. Their GM was signed this year too. So they've reset. And I think Geno Smith, while they paid him a veteran quarterback deal, it's not at the top of the league deal. He's not getting paid like Justin Herbert or Josh Allen. And I think he's a credible quarterback who you can compete with and try to get to the playoffs. I think they're like closer to a 8-9 win team than a 6-5-6 win team. And I don't think they're going to be last in that division this year. I think they're going to be better because they have a better coach, they have a better quarterback. And I think, and then you have Brock Bowers at tight end, and you have a running back who is really good as a rookie. I think they're going to actually compete in games and compete for the playoffs this year.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I don't feel that at all. Where are you getting these 9 wins from? Like they're gonna have all right, so
Well, we'll get into some of the teams who I think are overrated later on in this, but I think they're gonna win more games because overall they're a better team than they were last year. They're better coached. Going to Pete Carroll from I forgot the guy's name who was a linebacker for the Giants back in the day. They have an actual quarterback this year. They have actual running back this year. Their offensive line is good. Their wide receivers are not all that great, but they have Brock Bowers. I think they're going to compete.
and you don't think that they're last in their division?
I don't think they're going to be last in their division. No.
Interesting. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. We'll continue on that. Um, but there might be a fight that breaks out because you said that. We'll get there when we get there. Um, okay. Well, moving on. Let's go on to these New York Jets. What is their fatal flaw?
The passing game is their fatal flaw. I mean, Justin Fields, he still has a lot to prove as a passer in the NFL. I think he'll be productive, and I think they'll structure an offense around the running game with the quarterback that will be successful in a lot of ways. But they don't have a lot of receiving talent outside of Garrett Wilson, and I'm on the like, is Garrett Wilson actually good side of of that conversation.
Hmm.
I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's sorry, anything like that. I just don't know that he has the upside, the ceiling to be a number one receiver, to be a receiver that actually defenses have to shift towards him. He's good. I just don't know that he's really good or great. So yeah, I'm going with passing game.
I definitely feel like Garrett Wilson's a number one wide receiver. Is he like a top five guy? No, but I would rather have Garrett Wilson be my number one than overpaying for what is perceived to be a top five wide receiver. So I'm not mad at Garrett Wilson, to be honest with you. It should be about how he.
Is Garrett Wilson better than Devonta Smith for the Eagles?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So, and the only reason I say that is because Devontae Smith, as the number two option, has AJ Brown. He has a running
Mhm.
game that shifts everything. A lot of things get shifted away from him. However much he makes things shift away from other things. Garrett Wilson is nothing moves away from it's him. So if he was in that situation, I just feel like he would be able to he would shine in
I
that.
don't know. I feel like if you switch Garrett Wilson to the Eagles and Devonta Smith to the Jets, at the very least, I don't think it'll be a drop off for the Jets. And I
I
don't I
like
don't think
Javante
that
Smith. Javante Smith
and,
is
and I
like
don't and I
I
don't
think
think
he's the
I
number
don't think
one
the Eagles will
too.
be better. I don't think the Eagles will be better with Garrett Wilson.
Okay, but
But
I'm
listen,
very high on Devontae Smith as a number one option. Like Devontae Smith, T. Higgins is another one who I think are number one wide receivers. They're playing the role that they're playing for their team's success.
right, yeah.
I definitely feel like he could be a number one.
Yeah.
So
Like I don't think Garrett Wilson is better. I think T. Higgins is definitely better than Garrett Wilson.
okay, okay. So what you said about the Raiders, I actually kind of feel like there's a lane for the Jets to be that 8-win team competing for the playoffs if they do it the right way. I'm high on their defense and I'm high on their ability to run the ball. Now, if they say, all right, if they say, Justin Fields, we want you to pass the ball 30 times a game, yes, they're going to, this is going to, they might win 2 games. But if they say, you know what, we're going to ask you to throw the ball 20 times max, and we're going to revolve our whole season on running the ball and playing defense, they can sneak out. They have a physical style that I think that they can match up physically with a lot of teams in the NFL. So they're a team
Yeah.
that, like could be like 8 wins, um, Do I
I
think
I
that
could def
my playoffs? No, but I do think that they could be like an 8-win team.
I agree. I think so. And I definitely don't think that they're going to be the last place team in the AFC East. Probably far from it, to be honest, as I'm thinking about it. But yeah, I agree. Like I think the coach is going to be smart enough about, constructing an offense that actually works for the team and the talent that he has, and not trying to make Justin Fields throw the ball 40 times a game. I don't think that's going to happen.
Got you. So we'll go back to the AFC South and we'll go with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And actually, I'll start with this one because for me
Okay.
it's pretty obvious because just like I said, um, for teams that they constructed the wrong way when they didn't see that they needed to break it down more, the answer that I gave last year is the same answer I'm going to give this year for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They overpaid for their quarterback. And anytime that you give a great paycheck to a good quarterback, it sets your roster back and it sets it back for a long period of time. Trevor Lawrence, and me being a person that was high on Trevor Lawrence coming out of Clemson and stuff like that, I did think he was going to be closer to generational, but definitely better than he actually is. The only reason we're still having a conversation about Trevor Lawrence or the Jacksonville Jaguars at all of any relevance is because they came back from like 25 points down and beat the Chargers, and which is another
Like
quarter.
3 seasons ago, yeah.
Yeah, but if it's not for that, we're not having this conversation about him having all his money and all these other kind of stuff. But yeah, they overpaid for the quarterback, and now they got to deal with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think their biggest weakness is in terms of like actually competing for a Super Bowl is whether Trevor Lawrence has the ceiling that we were promised when he was drafted.
I think
He
he
just has,
definitely has
there's
that.
another quarterback who we're going to talk about who fits in this category too. But up to this point, Lawrence is significantly overrated in terms of what was expected of him. He is not a quarterback who uplifts the team. There is it's a rare occurrence, a very rare occurrence
Tell me,
where he,
I know where you're going.
because of his heroics or his throwing ability or his running ability, he wins a game where like everyone else is the rest of the team is slow or just not performing well. It's never him. So that just means I know that just means that he's not like truly one of the great quarterbacks.
Hmm.
And that's a high bar. I get that, but not only has he not done that, like what's his playoff record? I mean, he's been to the playoffs 2 seasons, maybe 3 seasons. Um,
Nah, I think he only went to the playoffs at one time.
Maybe he only went to the playoffs at one time, and I have that Chiefs game in my mind, but that was the same season that they beat
That
the
was the same season
Chargers
because
in the
they beat
playoffs.
the
Yeah.
Chargers,
So
and
yeah,
then
so like what does he actually bring? I see that he has all the tools. He can throw the ball from all the angles and all that, and he's a really good athlete. I've never really seen him pull it all together in a way that leads me to believe that he can compete for a Super Bowl.
now, I will say this though, putting this into context. So if I say Matthew Stafford, that's kind of how I feel about Trevor Lawrence. It's not that I feel like he's bad. It's that he's not great. So if you put him in the same situation, insert him into like the Niners last year, or I'm assuming 2 years ago, or
Mm.
or something like he then in that scenario, if you're not paying him over the top money, then I think he could be really good in that situation. I just don't think but in this scenario, him, Dak Prescott, all these quarterbacks that are going to get overpaid or that got overpaid, you're going to sink your whole franchise by overpaying them. He can get paid good money. I think Gino guy actually took. I looked it up. I think Gino took like 40 million, pretty much, more or less.
Yeah,
So if
and
you
that's like a middle class NFL quarterback salary, like
yes, yes,
because like Jalen Hurts is making like 52, I think. Like, and
yeah,
I think Jalen Hurts is like fourth highest paid in the league right now. So like
yeah, yeah. So I'm not saying he's terrible. I'm just saying you overpaid for your quarterback, and I'm sorry. Fatal flaw. Done. uh okay. Well, let's go to a team that I'm actually interested to hear what you have to say about this team.
that
The Miami Dolphins. What's the fatal flaw of the Miami Dolphins?
so I I am really low on the Dolphins. I don't think that they have. I think it's going to just fall apart on them. So to answer your question directly, I think their problem is culture more than anything else. Because on paper, if you write all the players down and their names and their accolades, like they have talent both on offense and defense. They traded for Minka Fitzpatrick. who's younger, and traded Jalen Ramsey, who's probably towards the end of his career. Got it. Great. I understand it. Jalen Ramsey probably wouldn't be out anyway. Like, I understand that trade. But like, this like, I don't know, is it a feud between Tua and Tyreek Hill? Like, what's I don't know what's going on there. Tyreek Hill's been like saying he wants to leave for about 2 seasons now. And I read an article yesterday saying that he's probably like there's like an informal trade market for him,
Hmm.
that the Dolphins are participating in. Like, they're accepting calls for him. So, and Jalen Waddle, he never really turned into the receiver that we thought he was going to be.
Hmm.
Um, and he sounds like he wants the ball more. Like, I'm hearing that kind of stuff. Their offensive approach
Sounds
is
like a wide
very
receiver.
yeah, but like but he's not better than Tariq Hill. So like, what do we even like?
Hmm.
Be better than the player across from you, and then maybe we can have that conversation.
Hmm.
Their offensive approach is really like they scheme it up a lot. So to the point where if anything doesn't happen on time, the offense doesn't roll. It is really easy to put just two safeties on top of the defense against them, and that takes away so much of their ability. I don't know. I feel like by midseason we might be talking about first coach fired. What's his name? What's the coach name? Mike
Mike
McDaniel.
McDaniels.
He might be first coach fired because they're like 1-6, 1-2-7, 3-8, something like that, and you know Tyreek Hill is asking for trades, and it's just all falling apart. So I'm saying culture.
Yeah, so actually I think we have, and this is a conversation we don't really get to have about the NFL. Head coaches. I think we've pretty much started to see the top of Mike McDaniel's abilities because we know he's really smart. We know the X's and O's for him is like easy for him. But being a head coach, you also it's more about culture and your ability to weather these kinds of storms and get things still going right. Um, yeah, I always hated how they constructed this team. Even remember when they was putting up like 70 points on people, and people was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, what do you do to stop this?" And I'm like, just like you said, put two safeties
Two
over the top,
safeties,
two pieces,
cover four.
and let that go. And they was like, "Oh, but they got Jalen Ramsey. Look at that defense." I was like, "Yeah, but you see those defensive tackles? Like they can run in the linebackers. You can run the ball on them a lot."
Yeah.
So it was very easy to see. So I've never been a Tua guy. I'm still scared for his life, by the way. I'm still scared for Tua Tagovailoa's life. Okay, I don't know why he's here, but I mean he's for the money. I don't know why he's here outside of that though, because he he need to go on home. Um, yeah, so I like it's funny that you say culture because I was pretty much going to say culture for them because there's rifts. Remember when Tyreek Hill came there first, and all of a sudden, Tua was the most accurate quarterback he ever played with, and all of that. People was like, is he slighting Patrick Mahomes? And it was like, I get it, you got to ride for who you with now, but the foundational pieces of it, I never really thought Tyreek Hill. I thought he had great seasons, but like fitting him into a system that basically says we're going to win. I thought you needed a better quarterback than what Tua was. Now it's all. I don't even know why they brought Minka Fitzpatrick back. To be honest with you, I don't even know why that happened.
He's younger. He's a younger defender. What's funny was I thought for some reason I thought that he played like in the slot or closer to the line of scrimmage more than he does. He basically is a deep safety,
Mhm.
which there's not a like that makes him less valuable in my mind. He's still good. He's still really good. I'm not taking anything away from him. But he's not as versatile as Jalen Ramsey is or was.
Okay. Yeah, I've hated how this I've been rah about this for about like 3 years now, and I've been telling people this isn't going to go anywhere. And now it's clear. Now it's obvious. 3 years later, I get it. It's obvious now, but I'm like, this is bad. Like this is they fucked it up. They fucked this up. Trust me. Um. Okay. Okay. Where do we go next? Where do we go next? All right. We'll go, and I'll be fair. We'll go with my Indianapolis Colts. Um. I was going to save them for a while, but I said, let's be fair, okay? What's going on? Tell me the fatal flaw, if it's just one. Tell me the fatal flaw for the Indianapolis Colts not winning the
I
Super
mean,
Bowl.
it's the passing game. Um, I don't try like Richardson just has to prove he's an NFL quarterback. Really, I mean, someone who can throw the ball more than like be a better than a 50% thrower. And if he doesn't, he's hurt now. But if he doesn't do that, I think like it's you're relying on Daniel Jones to be that guy. Like that doesn't seem like an answer. But also in addition to that, like I'm done thinking that there's a higher ceiling for the receiving core as well. Like I know they drafted the tight end from Penn State, but Pittman, I'm done thinking that he's going to be better than he has been.
Yeah, Michael Pittman Jr. is probably the worst number one wide receiver in the NFL to me. And I think he's more of a number two. So the conversation we were having about like Devontae Smith and T. Higgins and stuff like that. Like I remember when the whole T. Higgins contract conversation was happening, I was like, can we trade Michael Pittman Jr. for T. Higgins? And I would still rather pay T. Higgins than Michael Pittman Jr. He's good, like I said, he's good, not great. Not mad that he is our number one, but he's good, not
See,
great.
I'd be mad if he was my number one because he's not. He doesn't separate well enough, and he's not a ball winner the way that you would need someone who doesn't separate good to be.
Mhm.
So it's like he's kind of this like possession receiver who doesn't possess enough in his skill set in his bag to really elevate an offense.
I agree. I agree. I agree.
And that's
I agree
separate.
with
That's
you.
separate from the quarterback challenges that the team has
I
anyway.
don't hate that. I don't hate that. And especially with the quarterbacks that we have in the system that we run, he don't even really fit it. Like Anthony Richardson, Alec Pierce was led our team with receiving yards last year. All he does is go downfield. Anthony Richardson is not a, you know what I mean, hit you here, make the correct reads. I mean, he's awful at it. Do you remember the conversation we had in your living room about this? And I was just like, I don't like this pick. You're like, well, you gotta take a risk, and I'm like, yeah, he can't throw an out route. Like he can't throw it to the he can't throw it to the running back in the flat. And now it's even how he got hurt was 100% his fault because it was somebody coming free that he's supposed to be able to see. Oh, he's going to come free, and he didn't adjust the line. He didn't make any checks or anything, and wanted to go deep. And I'm like so.
To be clear, I didn't say you have to take the risk. I said this was a risk that you have to give it time. Since they've made the pick, you can't expect by year two that he's figured it out because he was such a
I hate
raw
it.
quarterback.
I'm,
But if it works out, you've figured out like a better version of Cam Newton. That
yeah,
didn't happen. It didn't
okay,
happen. It,
yeah,
it just it
but
just
like
hasn't
that's
happened.
what I'm saying. This is a cautionary tale for GMs and people who are just casual football fans. Just because you're a fantastic athlete does not mean you're a good quarterback. And more times than
That
not,
is true.
the guys that is the best athlete is the worst quarterback. There are way more instances of
I hear you.
guys that are just like because they're like, oh, he has a 40-inch vertical. You know what doesn't help a quarterback ever? A 40-inch vertical.
Okay,
That has
you're
yet to show
I
itself to be helpful.
here's my only rebuttal. Here's my only rebuttal. The hit rate of first round quarterbacks is about 50% anyway, regardless of athleticism or whatever. Like all of the quarterbacks, I've seen people go through the whole list of starting quarterbacks in the NFL year after year, or not starting quarterbacks, the first round drafted quarterbacks going back to like 2010 or whatever, and you list them out, and it's like 45% to 55% of these guys are actually work out. Most of these guys don't work out anyway. So my point is I understand taking a leap and taking a risk trying to get a Cam Newton because you can get a Cam Newton in this,
Mhm.
or you can get Anthony Richardson. But you can also strike out on the pocket passer too. That happens quite a bit
I
as
get
well.
that. I get that. I get that. And you're 100% right on that. You got to take a swing at some point. I understand that.
You got to draft a quarterback is what the deal is, and
You,
it's like, well, these guys don't like. It's hard. It seems like, and I haven't really figured out why it's so hard for NFL GMs to understand the quarterback position and to draft well at the position. But it is. They don't do it well because again, like it's about 50% of these guys work out and 50% of these guys don't.
right, right. So that's all I'm saying with these hyper athletic guys and they're being raw at just passing. I like so I was wrong about Josh Allen. I didn't know how that was gonna work out, but he was very raw. And I was wrong about Lamar Jackson. Those are two people that I would say I would be wrong about. Um, Lamar was not a top four pick though. And with that
No,
said, and
should have
with
been
that
though.
said, yeah, he should absolutely he should be number one pick. But with that said, more times than not, if a guy can't throw an out route and an in route and a comeback route, he probably you may not want to draft him in the top four just because he has a 40-inch vertical. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All I'm saying is you miss Cam Newton at that point because he couldn't do those things either.
I'm okay with that. Yes, you're
Okay,
not wrong, and I'm still okay with everything that you just said.
got it.
All right, so fatal flaw. You drafted Anthony Richardson with the top four overall pick. Moving on. Um, moving on. Let's get to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Um, so I can't decide if I want to say offensive line or defensive line, but it's one of them. I think I'm gonna go defensive line because the offensive line, given the offensive skill position talent they have, they just might be able to overcome that enough. But they really need to sign Trey Hendrickson and give him his money
Mhm.
because not only did he lead the league in sacks last year and not on some like BS, the quarterback just fell in front of him kind of stuff. Like he earned those sacks. They don't have anyone else
Mm-mm.
on that defensive line to rush the passer. They don't have anyone else who
On
is
the
credible
defense.
at at like tackling running backs and like stopping the run.
Mhm.
Their linebackers I can't even. I don't know who their linebackers are. I don't know who their
Their
linebackers are.
linebackers are Demetrius Knight, Logan Wilson, and Oren Burks.
Okay, so Oren Burks was the Eagles' third string linebacker last year,
Hmm.
who got time in the playoffs because of injuries. He played in one of those, and I think against the Rams because of injuries.
Hmm.
Um, if he's probably their best linebacker,
Hmm.
and that's not it.
That's
Um,
mhm.
the secondary is not all that great either, but if I'm gonna say a fatal flaw, it's the fact that they are an absolute sieve up front on the defensive line. And not only are they a sieve, they can't rush the passer if Trey Henderson doesn't play.
Mhm. So, um, the Bengals are basically the Dolphins with a better quarterback and better wide receivers.
I
That's
mean,
exactly so. The
sure.
formation, the formation of what it is, it's the problem. And and actually the fact that Joe Burrow, who I was probably a little bit lower on when he was drafted number one overall, um, he's having like last year was like a sneaky see like for me, I think like Joe Burrow all time just like leaped over like somebody like Brett Favre for me all time. And what even in the season when I'm looking at that because I'm like, who is carrying this function and this no offensive line? I feel bad for Joe Burrow with offensive line. You know what? You know what I feel like when I look at the Cincinnati Bengals in relationship with Joe Burrow, the exact same way I felt like with the Indianapolis Colts and and um and Andrew Luck. Sorry, the name was slipping my mind. And Andrew Luck. Why would you not give him offensive line to protect him? Why is he getting a like he's won playoff games in which he is the most sacked quarterback to win a playoff game and he did it like twice where he was like sacked like 9 times
Yeah,
and he won the playoff game.
right.
Why would you not give him an offensive line to protect him? If you can't figure out the offensive line, then overpay for it. You know what I mean? Then I'm sorry, then you do have to overpay for it to get it right. But you cannot send him out there week in and week out where he's putting you guys in a position where it's Trey Hendrickson, Joe Burrow, and those two wide receivers. That's it. Everything else is below average. And you're sending him out with that, and it's like they honestly might make the playoffs this year. That's not out of the realm of possibility. They might actually make the playoffs this year. But I don't know how you don't protect him, but like this is a bad construction of a roster, and this is not what you do with a franchise quarterback. The Cincinnati Bengals right now are putting on display what you don't do with a very talented quarterback.
Thing is, they've drafted first round linemen. Last year I think they drafted not this past draft, but this draft before. They drafted another first round lineman who just hasn't worked out yet. As I say yet because he's his second year.
Mhm.
Um, they tried. It just they don't. perhaps they need to invest better in their scouting team and their scouting department because they don't they put resources behind it. They just haven't been successful.
Hmm. And I do think more teams, not to say, I'm not saying they didn't try. I thought more teams should have tried to get Trey Hendrickson, like a very good destination that I was like, listen, you might have to do what you got to do to get him, like Detroit. That's a team that might be it. You know what I mean? Get him in the building. The Rams. If you get him in that building, now all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying? Like I felt like to act like that. I do think the Bengals are acting like Trey Hendrickson isn't he didn't lead the league in sacks last year. You know what I mean? By
Hmm.
kind of a large margin too. You know, you can say what you want about
Yeah,
Michael
they're
Garrett
just
and TJ Watt, but
they're,
like he led the league in sacks, you know? So and it's only him. So I don't know why they're undervaluing they're like over evaluating their overall talent by way of undervaluating the talent that actually is there. That
yeah. I, I
I
I
can't
don't
say
even
that
I don't
anybody.
even think it's that I don't even think it's that deep. I think it's just it's a poorly run organization from the ownership down, and they don't know how to treat top players who are not offensive players well. They like, Trey Hendrickson, I think he's 30 or 29 or 30, something like that. He's publicly stated he is not looking for the break the bank, be the highest paid defensive player in the league deal. He just wants what's right for him. Give him something that's fair. It's something in the 20-25 million dollar range over 2 or 3 seasons. Like that shouldn't be a problem to pay someone of Trey Hendrickson's caliber. They just don't respect him.
All right, let's go with the New England Patriots. What's the fatal flaw of the New England Patriots?
I mean, they're still not a well constructed roster yet. They're still rebuilding, but I would say their weakest part is still their offensive line, and their ability to protect Drake May. I think he's a good quarterback. He's going to they have to work around the offensive line with a lot of short game, a lot of running with the quarterback, that kind of stuff. Their offensive line is their weakest link.
I want to see Drake May this year. So I think he had a pretty decent year. But I wasn't looking at him and saying what everybody else was saying about him that he was. Um, I'm not saying they were saying he was great, but they were definitely saying he was doing things that I wasn't necessarily seeing from his performance. So I really want to observe him this year. I just don't know where they'll land. They could, I think they're funny enough built like the old New England Patriots that where they're good at so many positions, but I don't know exactly where they're great. And they got some names that's supposed to be great, and I don't know if they are great, you know? But I think Christian Gonzalez is like the best player on their team. But
Yeah,
it's
like I think Christian Gonzalez and they have Carlton Davis too. I think they have a good defensive secondary. I
yeah,
think they have a good defense in general. I don't know about their wide receivers either.
yeah,
Diggs is their guy. We'll see about that. He's coming off
yeah.
an
I mean, but
ACL
like
injury.
is
He's
Harold
older.
Landry great? I mean, how good is he? How good is Stephon Diggs right now? You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know. So yeah, that's exactly how I feel about them too. So let's bounce on over to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Um, isn't it still quarterback?
You hate it. You
They
hate it.
I'm saying quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is old, and I know he's a year removed from a shorter Achilles, but you know that's still like he's not moving like he used to. That's for sure. And it's funny because Aaron Rodgers is probably one of if not the greatest passer of the ball, like being able to be accurate deep and being able to like all of the stuff that everybody knows he does. He's like one of if not the greatest at that. He's also always been a very cautious quarterback.
Mhm.
Like part of his greatness was he doesn't throw interceptions or he doesn't put the ball in harm's way. But there are times when even when he was doing it in MVP seasons that he could have been a little bit more. He was probably a little bit too risk adverse,
Mhm.
and that's still the case now, even with his diminished abilities, which means that he's really only throwing the ball to receivers who are open, and if not, he's just throwing it away or like throwing it deep. So it's quarterback to me.
You know what? He ever since he switched to number 8, number 12, Aaron Rodgers was different than number 8, Aaron Rodgers. And I agree with that. It's like he took his cave ball for something. Like he, you know what I mean? Like he put his powers down. Like, but this number 8, Aaron Rodgers, does not scare me. He maybe he'll transform back if he ever got back to number 12. Um, yeah. So their fatal flaw, I just don't know exactly what they're doing. I don't know what they are seeing from from this team, from this roster. I don't know what they're observing to be their strengths and what is like we could lose. Like I remember that TJ Watt was somebody who they were going back and forth all season about a contract. And they're like, well, he can go, but they're waiting for Aaron Rodgers all offseason to come into camp and like not having the camaraderie with his wide receivers or the timing, building that. DK Metcalf, I've never been a DK Metcalf guy. He's never been as big as his size shows that he is. He's always played smaller than his size says he is. So I didn't really feel like, and then you lose Pickens, and I was like, all right, on paper that might be something, but then you lose him, and then it's like, all right, so what are you doing? That's what I'm saying. I don't know. Aaron Rodgers can't carry this. You know, that's not going to happen. So I don't know what they're doing. So I don't know if you want to call that a fatal flaw, but I have too many uncertainties about too many questions about what's going on in their direction.
Yeah, it also might be time for Tomlin to just move on. Like it's not that he's a bad coach; it's just that he's been there for so long. His voice might not carry like it used to. It might just be time for a change of scenery.
It could be. It could be. He's a damn good coach. It's just what kind of team are they going to be? Do you know?
Not
Um,
really.
so all right, so we're gonna spend a little bit of time in this AFC West because it's a lot of teams there that are really actually good. So I'm gonna go next. I'm gonna go with the Denver Broncos.
I know that a lot of people were like pleasantly surprised with Bo Nix last season.
Let them down easy, man. Let them down easy.
And look, they got to the playoffs. It was good. That was good for them. I'm going back and forth between whether it's the quarterback or if it's the skill position, the rest of the skill position players, wide receiver, specifically. I just don't think Bill Nix has the ceiling to really get a team to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I think a quarterback of Bo Nix's caliber needs too much around him to reasonably expect that to even happen. Now he doesn't have a lot around him. Like the receivers, it's like Cortland Sutton and like I don't know who else. They drafted or they drafted a tight end or they signed.
They
Maybe
signed
they
Evan
signed.
Ingram.
They signed Evan Ingram. He's good. And they drafted there was a guy KJ Henry. I think his name is running back.
RJ
Um,
Harvey.
RJ. Okay, Harvey. Sorry about that. Yeah, I just don't think Bo Nix is the guy to get you to Super Bowl. Like they're all these comparisons because of Sean Payton to Drew Brees, and I just don't see it. So I'm going with Bo Nix.
Yeah, like he definitely has a low ceiling in terms of his talent, but I think there's been a lot of quarterbacks that have a lower ceiling, and the team just asks them to do the things that they're great at, and it's like, well, that's going to work out. I actually do have the same exact point as Bo Nix. Now for the season, I don't know. I kind of feel like they have like just like in Philly, I feel like Jalen Hurts is the guy for the Eagles right now because you need a guy that basically says, I gotta figure out how to make everybody else happy, even if it makes me look bad. And somebody gotta take that hit. And he's willing to do that. I think this is more their quarterback than the quarterback. And I don't know yet. So I really want to observe them this year, but my ceiling, I'll give it I'll if I'm not gonna say fatal flaw, the ceiling that I'm giving to them to the Denver Broncos is Bo Nix because the rest of this roster is very and they have two very exceptional pass rushers, which I love in Super Bowl teams. So this
Yeah, they
team
might have the best defense in the league.
period. They got I think they have the best corner. They might have the best defense. There's very few teams that have two legitimate pass rushers. It's like them, the Texans, the Eagles, and it's like everybody else really don't have like two legitimate pass rushers. So I love the construction. I love their weapons. You know what I mean? So, yeah, quarterback.
Yep.
Um, okay. Well, let's stay right there, and we're gonna go to the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah. So this is the other quarterback I was talking about when we were talking about Trevor Lawrence of just I think he's overrated. I think he's significantly overrated. I'm talking about Justin Herbert now. So I'm going with Justin Herbert.
Hmm.
Um, and look, I see all the tools. I see he from a skill set perspective, he's fifth, sixth best quarterback in the league, somewhere in there. But he like in the NBA, they have this term, good stats, bad team guy. And it's pretty self-explanatory. But
Hmm.
what it also points to is a player who, for whatever reason, for any a lot of reasons, or it could be any reason, it's hard to build a successful team around them. And I'm starting to think that Justin Herbert, is that kind of player where he has all the skill set, he can throw the ball at all the angles, has all the arm, as he's a big athletic player, but it just never turns into something that's successful. Like he's in the middle of his second contract and he's been to the playoffs two times and he lost both of those playoff games. So like I hear and there's some reasonable arguments around like the management never really put a good team around him. I get that, but he also is someone who has never elevated the team beyond what the parts are around him. I just don't get it. I don't, and so I understand. I see the skill set, but it does not match with any kind of success for a team. So I'm saying Justin Herbert, as great as he is as a quarterback, is their weakest link in
No,
terms of getting to the Super Bowl.
Justin Herbert is the most overrated player in the NFL. For all of the things he does in the regular season to say he's the answer to what they've done, he's been the issue in both of their playoff losses. They've only been to the playoff twice. He's been the issue. He has single-handedly saved the career and what we think about on any level, Trevor Lawrence and right now CJ Stroud, because he was having a sophomore slump, if you remember, up until he played them Chargers in the playoffs, and then all of a sudden he's going into LA with a far inferior roster, and now he's winning it. Now we're like, all right, you could say he had a sophomore slump, but did he really? He advanced in the playoffs. So Justin Herbert to me is absolutely it, and I think that is complete bullshit that people say the GM didn't give him rosters that he needed to win. He had Super Bowl rosters for the last. He had Super Bowl rosters. Okay, I'm not even going to go for how many years it was. He had Super Bowl rosters. He was given what the GM needed to give him to win these Super Bowls. You see him slipping over my words. It's him, yo. It is him.
Yeah, and look, he's again, like I said with his contract, he's not a young quarterback anymore. He's not old. I'm not saying he's not old at all. No, I'm not saying that. But he's in the middle of his second contract. We generally speaking, what kind of quarterback you have by like, year seven or whatever he's in now. And he's just hasn't translated to team success. And look, maybe this is unfair, but if it is, it's unfair to every quarterback in the NFL. That's the position. That's the position that we look at in terms of leading a team, in terms of being able to carry a team to victories when the rest of the team is slumping. Like we look to quarterbacks. We put that same weight on Jalen Hurts and we put that same weight on Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and all these guys who have had some success, maybe not Super Bowl success for all of them, but have taken their teams places, have won MVPs, have done things. And we try to put Justin Herbert in that league of those quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he's that. Like, I don't think he has the winning formula, whatever that is, that it takes for a player. Like, I know that he's a way more skilled quarterback than Jalen Hurts is, but I'm taking Jalen Hurts over him if I'm
That's
trying to
not
win a Super
close.
Bowl
That's not even close.
because,
That's not
but
even
but but
close.
but if you listen to how this conversation goes, with all the talking heads, it's the reverse because of Herbert's skill set. They're like, well, he can do all these things as a quarterback. It's like, great. When does he do that when it matters?
Mm-hmm.
Never.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Hurts can do four things, and he does them very well. And when it's time to win, he is there for
That's exactly what I was
making winning
saying.
time plays.
That was
And
exactly
Herbert
what I
just is
was
not that
saying
guy.
about when we were talking about Bo Nix. That like some guys are just guys that they can't do a whole lot of stuff, but teams just ask them to do those things, and they
Mm.
exceed when they are put in that situation. So
Yep.
So yeah. So now we're getting to the top of all of these divisions. Let's go over to
It's still offensive line. They traded Laramie Tunsil, who was their best offensive tackle, best offensive lineman, for reasons that are still seem kind of unclear. That kind of is this like culture thing that they keep using. It just sounds like he just wasn't. He was an irritable person in the locker room, and no one really liked him. Is what it kind of feels like.
okay.
Fine, whatever. You trade him away, but you don't really replace him with talent, and you don't really draft in a way that tells me that you identify the offensive line as a place where you need to improve. And so I think CJ Stroud is going to be running for his life again, like he was last year, behind a subpar offensive line. Um, and that's just, how we will find out whether CJ Stroud can elevate his team beyond the sum of their parts this season, because the offensive line is just that bad. So I'm going offensive line.
I'm gonna say injuries. Like they had some awful. I mean, what happened with my man
Tank Dell.
Tank Dell's knee? I don't even know if he'll play football again. They just got CJ Gardner Johnson, and he's out for the year now. Uh,
They don't think he's out for the year, but he's not gonna be there for week one. That's for sure. He might not come back to like October or middle of October. It's not a torn ACL, which is what they feared what it was.
okay, so what the reports that I was hearing was that he was out for the year. So okay, so he's out for half of the season. That's rough. Yeah. So, but I think they're going to, even with that said, I think they're going to bid well from being in the AFC South, in that I still think that like they can kind of, what I mean, keep themselves afloat in this division. With that said, you'll probably continue to hear CJ Stroud's name being like, well, is he that good? What I mean? He needs to be a little bit better, and I think that's fair. But I think they're still going to win the division. I don't think their problems holds them back in the long run. But yes, injuries. I just think they had some really unfortunate
Okay.
and a superb off defense. I'm gonna be honest with you, superb.
Yeah, that'd be really good. I think that'd be really good on defense.
Um, but yeah. So let's go to the Buffalo Bills. So I'll do the Buffalo Bills. So I have more than one thing for them. So the biggest thing for me is they're too Josh Allen dependent, and that's not a slight against Josh Allen in any way, shape, or form. All I'm saying is that if Josh Allen isn't kind of doing it, they don't really have what's going on. Oh, did I drop? I might have dropped. So hopefully it'll just kind of okay. Well, I'm still on it. We'll come back on to it. I'm still on it. Yeah, don't worry. We can edit that this part out.
Okay. So yeah,
Um,
Buffalo Bills, right?
Yep. So I was just saying that I think they're too dependent on Josh Allen. And that has nothing to do with Josh Allen. It's just that Josh Allen has to be a monster all the time for 17 weeks and through the playoffs. And I think that's partly the problem. The other part of that is, even though I think that they have a very good defense, they're the same team as they were last year. You know what I mean? I've always looked at them and said, "Yo, you need two pass rushers. They don't even just need one; they need two pass rushers." I don't have no idea why they had another Trey Hendrickson landing spot that would have been great for them. I have no idea why they always depend on Josh Allen so much to just carry them. But they don't have a roster that needs to be carried. They just need a couple pieces to be taken away. But like their fatal flaw is, they're the same team that they were last year, which means they're going to be a little bit worse.
Yeah, my answer is similar and short and sweet. It's their skill position players on offense. They're just not good enough at the receiver, tight end, and if Cook sits out the running back position, maybe less on the running back position, but receiver and tight end, they're just not good enough um, to compete really. Like Shakir is their best receiver. Um, Dalton Kincaid and or Knox is his last name. Like they're fine, but they're not good enough to overcome the lack of talent on the outside. I like Keon Coleman, but I like him as a person, but he has to turn into an actual NFL caliber receiver
Seems like a cool
for
guy.
this to work. He's a funny dude. I like him, but so yeah, skill positions.
Okay. Okay. I don't know why they won't get two pass rushers there. Like they haven't really. I mean, Von Miller
Well,
is
I mean,
gonna
they're doing
fit.
this thing where like they're paying their quarterback at the top of the league, which they should. He's that caliber of quarterback, and they're just relying on the draft to draft that they think they can identify talent in the draft. And it just, again, when you're drafting at the end of the first round all the time or end of every round because you've been good, it's hard to identify elite talent at that point. There's kind of not there anymore.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, cool. Well, we're gonna finish this up with our final team, the Super Bowl representative from the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, so
Hold on,
the
say it again. Say it
so
again.
again,
All right, cool.
if they have a fatal flaw,
Mhm.
it's probably offensive weapons, just similar to Buffalo. Um, this is still Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. This is still a really good defense. I don't think that their offensive skill players are bad. But you look at Kelsey, he's old now. He's not somebody you can rely on to be basically a number one receiver playing tight
No,
end anymore.
no.
And Rasheed Rice is probably going to be, I think, suspended 6 games this year,
Mhm.
to start the season. So it's Hollywood Brown. It's who's the other fast guy, the other speed guy,
Xavier Worthy.
Xavier Worthy, and and the running backs, Pacheco, and I think
Kareem Hunt.
Hunt is back too. So like, it's not terrible, and it's a group that with Patrick Mahomes, they will definitely compete in my view for the Super Bowl. And then they'll get Rasheed Rice back at some point this season, and I think he's really good. And so like we're talking about fatal flaws and reasons why teams won't make Super Bowl. They are still in the driver's seat to make Super Bowl. But to play along with this, what we're talking about, it's those wide receivers and the tight end getting old.
Okay, so I want to start by saying um, Patrick Mahomes, um, Chris Jones. I think they are have been the stalwarts of the NFL, and I think that Chris Jones more. He's going very under. He's going very under the radar for defensive players like all time because, and I say that because I'm tired of acting like this, like the Kansas City Chiefs have had good rosters. They've had Patrick Mahomes, they've had Chris Jones, they've generally had a good cornerback or two. Everything else has been nothing more than good to below average. And that's what you basically get with the rest of this roster. The fact that they won the two Super Bowls with the rosters that they won to me blows my mind because they have yet to have a Super Bowl roster in the last 3 years, and they've won 3 straight years. And the fact that they won, they're supposed to get blown out by the Philadelphia Eagles with the roster the Eagles have in comparison to what the Chiefs had. This is like it's night and day. Like I'm tired of acting like this roster is not below average roster being carried by a couple superheroes. So no,
Mm.
I don't think that they're a Super Bowl contender, but they're on the lower end of that. You know what I mean? And they need to recognize that they need a lot of help on this roster.
Gotcha.
So, and yes, you're right. Thank you for texting me that. Y'all didn't see it, but Mooch texted me. Um, we're gonna finish off with the Baltimore Ravens. I did forget about the Baltimore Ravens. Uh, but they're forgettable. No, they're not forgettable. My boy Tazar, who be coming on, he's a Ravens fan. And they said something that said AD Mitchell was like feasting on the Ravens secondary and stuff like that. I was like, I'm gonna just sit this here. He didn't like that. That's okay. um, so finishing off, we're gonna go the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah. So this might be the most complete roster in the NFL entering the season. It's hard to pick apart a weakness. They shored up what would have been a weakness. They shored up when they signed Jair Alexander for their secondary, defensive secondary. So like it's kind of it feels nitpicky, but I'm gonna go with offensive line simply because that's just the only place that has any kind of question. Um, the guard they have, his last name is Voorhees. He hasn't really come through yet.
Andrew Woods.
Um, yeah, he hasn't really come through. He started his career in the NFL on the injured reserve list because he tore his ACL, I think, during the combine. So they drafted him. He was supposed to be like a second round pick. They drafted him in the seventh round because of that ACL. He's back. He was back last year. He was fine for a rookie. But it's hard. I can say like Derrick Henry might get old. He might be old now. But he just might be built different. Well, he's definitely built different. He might be taking care of his body in a way that just
Hmm.
allows him to have a long career at a position that you just don't see that.
Hmm.
So I'll just be late to that party. Derrick Henry is going to get old before I see it coming. I just accept that. I'm gonna go with offensive line.
Okay. So once again, I got two points for them. One, same answer with that I had with Josh Allen. They are asking Lamar Jackson to be Superman for 17 weeks and the playoffs. And that's the problem. So they did not, I still feel as though they need a number two wide receiver. Rashad Bateman is not that. They need somebody else to draw coverage away from everything. I'm not saying they need it because they're going to win 14 games. They're going to win 13, 14 games. So I'm not saying like as that, but in terms of a Super Bowl, yeah, like I'm going to close in on all of this, and I'm going to be taking this away. Mark Andrews is another one. Oh, is he old or is he? You know what I mean? But I'm actually leaning towards him being old. More than Derrick Henry. So you got like Zay Flowers and Isaiah Likely, and you're hoping that this is enough for Lamar to carry. And I'm like, it's just not. Now, in terms of their defense, they're actually going to be playing a defensive style that I haven't seen. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I know it's going to take them far. Their cornerbacks are phenomenal, and the fact of the matter is they've been top three in sacks in the last uh 3 years, at least 2 years. But they've been top three in sacks. And they're basically going to say, we're blitzing and we're going to use these cornerbacks, and that's it. Traditionally, I'm used to defensive juggernaut teams having a legitimate number one pass rusher and legitimate secondary pass rusher. They don't necessarily have that, but the amount of people they can just send at you, you know what I mean? It might just change everything. So I'm gonna be interested. I'm getting my popcorn, and I want to just see how this is going to work out for 17 weeks because asking cornerbacks to um, drive the ship for for 17 weeks and the playoffs. Well, I mean, you're going to be predictable at some point, but will it matter? Will it not matter at the end of it? So, I think that that's where I'm leaning towards with them. I'm curious about the defense. I'm worried that they did not get a wide receiver um, to really
I would actually argue that they need a number one receiver. I would say that
fair,
Flowers is actually
fair,
a number two receiver.
fair.
And they needed somebody who can beat coverage off like jam coverage at the line of scrimmage and can get open. Not necessarily somebody who is good enough to draw the defense to them because I think they're balanced enough on offense that they don't need that. It'd be great to have it, but they don't need it. But they need somebody. They don't have somebody who can. They don't have somebody who can do the things like to like beat jam coverage on the line of scrimmage and get open quickly,
Okay.
which is what someone like you know like what's his name? He's on the team now actually. Who they signed? He's an old receiver now.
Oh, you're talking about
Hopkins.
yes, DeAndre Hopkins.
Like Hopkins is like the super version of this.
Mm-hmm.
When he was in his like in his when he was really good. They don't need somebody that good, but they need somebody who like if you need somebody, they call them like bucket getters in NBA. Like you need somebody who just like it's third and seven, quick slant, get open, get the ball, get the extra yard and a half, get the first down, keep the drive going. They don't have that player,
Mm-hmm.
and Hopkins is just too old to do that now
Yeah.
consistently.
So you're only emphasizing my point even more. You know what I mean?
Mm.
That's but it may not matter at the end of this because they could
Yeah,
be
because they are actually stacked, and
they
Lamar
could
Jackson
be
is
Super
actually
Bowl
that guy.
champions.
So
And Lamar Jackson, like he's actually a archetype for just like, and this is me being honest, just like for like Dan Marino was like an archetype for NFL passers, and John Elway was an archetype for NFL passers. I think like Lamar Jackson is a legitimate archetype because he's not a guy who wants to throw the ball 35 times. He's like a 20 to about 26 pass guy. You know what I mean? He's very much using his legs. They're running the ball and they're figuring that out. It's almost like the Wildcat extended in like a way that's like, all right, now I don't even know how to really compensate for this whole thing. So I really feel like Lamar Jackson is like an archetype for how you can get your quarterback to be great.
yeah, honestly, I don't think Lamar. I still don't think Lamar Jackson gets enough credit for being the passer that he is and being the player, the level of intelligence and reading defenses and being able to manipulate defensive secondaries to get receivers open. I don't think he gets enough credit for his ability to do that. I think people think about him in terms of being able to run the ball, which he can absolutely do. But he's been doing that. You know, he like to last season he had like 900 some yards rushing. He but he also had 41 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions. Like that's incredible. That's
Absolutely.
those are
Absolutely.
numbers that don't and you know but people focus with him in my opinion too much on the 900 yards rushing that he had, which is important. It's part of his game and no doubt about it. But like his ability to throw the ball is every bit of what Josh Allen's is every bit of any of the elite quarterbacks not named Patrick Mahomes probably.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I also think I don't understand how people are saying I love Joe Burrow. I don't know what metric you're going towards to say Joe Burrow's in the same conversation as Lamar
Yeah,
Jackson.
I mean, look,
And I like
he's going
Joe.
to put some
I
numbers.
love Joe Burrow. I
I
love Joe
agree.
Burrow. All the time. I love Joe Burrow. But it's like,
Yeah,
what would you say to say that he is actually better? So
yeah, I agree. And Joe Burrow has like the best or second best wide receiver, and also the best number two receiver in the NFL that he's throwing to. So like he has help that Lamar Jackson doesn't. But you know, these are the breaks.
okay, cool. Well, we definitely appreciate you coming through, and we definitely want to do part two. Did you see I rhymed that? I did that on the top of my head. I didn't know if you peeped that, or if you put all that together, but that's how that happens.
Yeah,
You see, it started here, and then by the end of it, it was over here. I just wanted to throw that out there.
very creative, very creative.
Thank you, man. You know what I mean? I tell you what, you just give me props and stuff. You see, I wipe my tear. With that said, of course, everybody, you can catch the full episodes on Instagram. Oh, not on Instagram. You can catch full episodes on Spotify and YouTube, and you catch the reels. Have you been seeing the real numbers lately?
Reel's been working.
Listen, and
Reel's
you
been
catch the
reeling.
reels on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We're all over the place. Mooch, you came through and told us why the AFC teams won't win the Super Bowl, and I still got to tell you, because you don't know football. I appreciate you, and we'll see you again real soon for part two.